Máirtín Ó Muilleoir. I'm delighted to welcome onto this SPAR Craic 10K 2026 podcast the legend that is Gladys Ganiel. Usually when you're a legend, people think you're very old, so maybe we'll just say a formidable runner, a person who has many, many different lives. I always thought you're a Westie, but I believe you live in North Belfast, much to our disappointment. Um, uh, but you work in South Belfast at Queen's University. So tell us a little bit about why anyone would leave the great state of Maine. Beautiful, I've been there once or twice, the beautiful blue skies. I know it's cold in winter, but why did you leave? Why did you leave Maine to come to Ireland, then wish up in Belfast?
Well, we'll blame Ray Tracy, I think. So he was the coach at Providence College in Rhode Island when I was in high school, being recruited to run NCAA cross country. So Ray Tracy is the brother of John Tracy, who won the silver medal for Ireland in the LA Olympics in 1984. And I like the setup Ray had there. Andy Ronan, another from Wexford, he was another coach there. And they recruited lots of Irish athletes as well as Americans to run on the cross country team. And I got interested in Ireland really from being in Providence, being on a team of Irish athletes for 4 years. And I did Irish history and so forth. And then when it came time to go to graduate school, I thought, well, I'll just go to Dublin and do my studies there. And then I never left the island. So I've just been hanging about since then.
So, we're delighted you came to Belfast, but you stayed as well. So have you fallen in love with the place, or you've got one of those handcuffs that you're not allowed, or your parole doesn't allow you to leave Belfast? But you've stayed here. You've stayed for all these years. So
I
your
have.
home. It's your home now.
It is, yes. And I mean, my area of research for my PhD when I was in Dublin was religion, conflict, and peace building. So that was obviously focused on Northern Ireland. And that, has really been an area of passion for me to study. And when I got a job in Belfast, first at the Irish School of Ecumenics and now at Queen's, I mean, it's really just given me an opportunity to study and be involved in one of the things I'm most passionate about. So I've no reason to leave, and I really enjoy life here. So.
Okay, and of course you're an academic, you're a professor at Queen's. You're also an author. You wrote a beautiful biography of our dear friend, and we're in Clonard at the minute. We're at the Clonard glider stop. So you wrote a beautiful biography of Father Jerry Reynolds, a great peacemaker, and you're involved in the Oxford Handbook of Religion in Ireland as well. So, how do you juggle all these things? Because unlike most of us, you don't just like run 5 miles a couple of times a week. You would probably do 70 or 80 miles at least a week.
Yeah, yeah. So I like to say now I'm sort of semi-retired from running. I'm coming up on 49 years old in March. I'll be 49 by the time of the Crack 10K. So when I was younger, I wouldn't have done this as much, but now I basically commute by running to work, So I get the miles done that way. I save time on commuting. I do miss out, maybe running with my club or doing sessions with my club. But at this stage in my life, having a very busy job, that's the way I can manage it. And, I do really love getting out there in the morning and having my head clear before I come in to Queen's, whether it's to teach or to write out my research or whatever. So that's kind of how I fit it in by eliminating a commute in a car or a bus and getting there on my 2 feet.
Okay, but just to be clear, when you say get out in the morning, you mean get out at 6:30. Like most people, that's the middle of the night. But
Well,
you're out early. You're out early.
that might be a weekend run. So in general, I drop my son to school before I go out now, and for the commute. But yeah, I've been known to have been out on the streets of Belfast running the marathon course at 5 a.m. in the past.
Wow.
That's not unusual.
So we have an awful lot of runners at the SPAR Craic 10K who are starting out, and the running community is so inclusive. I see more and more. I'm able to pass some of the North Belfast Harrier runners, your great club. So it's clear to me that they're allowing all ages, all shapes. People starting out.
Yeah.
So when people hear someone like yourself, who's a top class runner, but let me ask you a few questions. It may seem stupid to you. Do you run in the rain?
Of course, you wouldn't ever run if you didn't run in the rain in
So,
Belfast.
so, so you don't mind running in the rain, or you just get on with it?
Once you're wet, you're wet. It's wind is worse. The wind annoys me. I mean, I still run in the wind unless it's like a yellow warning or orange warning or whatever. But I mean, wind is worse than rain from my point of view.
Do you run in the snow?
Yes, but I have trail shoes that give me a good grip.
Okay, and you're from Maine, so
Yeah.
this may be a stupid question, but but you can't run in the frost, and you can't run in the frost in Maine or here. It's dangerous. Or do you run in the frost as well?
Yeah, well, it is dangerous. So what would have happened when I lived in Maine? They actually take care of the footpaths, so you wouldn't have to wait that long to be out. It would be fine, if you know what I mean. And you could also always in Maine, you could find a wee bit through the forest and run on the top of snow, which isn't slippy. So there's workarounds in Maine. Here, there's less of a workaround on the really slippy days because it's we don't have the resources to take care of the things like a place where you're getting snow every day, basically, or
So,
frost.
so, so let me ask you a big existential question. Why do you run?
Well, yes. I mean, I don't my life, my everyday life would not feel right without it. Getting that sort of, I suppose, the exercise and the mental clarity that comes from it. I mean, I originally started running to become like a better high school basketball player. So where I grew up, basketball is the most popular sport in Maine. Like we shut down all the schools in February to play the high school basketball tournament, which is televised on TV. It's like the thing, right? And in my high school, a lot of the girls would have done cross country in the autumn to get fit for basketball. So I kind of started to do it that way. And it turned out I was quite good at it. And I suppose whenever you are quite good at something and you also feel the physical and mental benefit you get from it, there's no reason to stop. I mean, sometimes like especially when I was younger, it was hard, it's difficult. Running's not an easy sport. You get injured. It's painful at times, but there's never been a day, I don't think, in my entire life where I regretted going for a run. You always feel better after it, no matter what, I think.
Yeah, I can testify to that. But when you were younger, you competed at a very high level. You finished Belfast, I don't know, did you finish Belfast 230, 236? Oh,
Well,
fast,
I might have done Belfast in 236
226?
the year the course was long. I think I would have gone
Okay.
236 if it had been the
So
right.
so what's you've won the Belfast Marathon.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
At what pace, at what time?
I don't remember the year I won it. My PB is 236.40 from Dublin.
So let me tell you this. I met Máirtín recently, who won the Belfast Marathon in 2002, and the record stood to 2011. He knew immediately what his time was, Gladys. He knew immediately. So you should be very proud of that. That's incredible time. But you compete. Did you compete for Northern Ireland, or did you compete for Ireland? Did you compete in the Masters? Because you ran as an international runner as well.
Yes, so I ran for Northern Ireland in the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, 2014. I ran twice for Ireland in the European Championships, 2016 and 2018. Yeah.
And the marathon's your sport.
Marathon, yeah. So Commonwealth Games, Europeans was marathon, except 2016, they did a half marathon instead because that's an Olympic year. So they don't run a half marathon in the European Championships the same year as the Olympics,
So do
basically.
you take a day off after you compete internationally?
Well, if it's a marathon, yes.
Because the Reverend Steve Stockman said he saw you out at the Dub one day, and you're out running, and he said, okay, yeah, and the day before you'd been running in Frankfurt or Hamburg or somewhere, so he was quite taken by your drive and zeal for running. So it's something that you've kept, but being a member of the Harriers, you're also coaching. You're sort of typical of these running people. You also enjoy obviously encouraging others to run.
Yeah, so I help coach the junior section, so kids who are around 8 years old up to age 11. And so at that age, it's more about getting them to enjoy the sport, the social aspects of it, being outside, getting practice being outside in all weathers. It's normal to be rained on. You're not gonna get very far in the sport here if you don't like being rained on and so on and so forth. But we play games on a Thursday night that get them running about and do a bit of running around the girls model track on a Tuesday. So it's at this point, it's just emphasizing the enjoyment for kids at that age.
So in the years you've been here, you've been in Ireland since '99. You've seen running grow. I mean,
Yes,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I'm out of Christmas Day and so on. I see so many young people out the weekends. People tell me that post-COVID, young people don't drink as much as we did when we were at university. So the weekend is then available to do things. How have you enjoyed seeing that growth? You've too busy a schedule to be at park runs. I don't see you at park runs because you're probably doing 15 mile or 20 mile. But how have you enjoyed seeing that great interest in a sport you have loved, but so many people now are engaging at all types of level? You've seen that transformation.
Yeah, I mean, it's only good for the sport, the more people who are involved at every level, You don't you get a better elite end if the base is bigger, basically. But also, I mean, it's great for the health of the general population, which is what we want, mental health and physical well-being as well. I mean, if I think back when I came here in 1999, both the Dublin and Belfast marathons, they were both much, much smaller. And I remember I was part of Dundrum South Dublin Club when I lived there and being volunteering at a drink station for the Dublin Marathon. And it was like, quite small, not many people out on the course. Now Dublin Marathon is huge. It's massive. It's one of the top marathons in Europe, really, in some ways. It's you got to go a lottery to get into it. And they've done a really great job developing the Dublin Marathon. And Belfast is not as big as Dublin, but when you look at it now, the level of organization that Belfast City Marathon has, and in terms of the half that goes along with it and the other events, they're really, it's a top class event now. People could come from anywhere in Europe or North America and think that was a good race. That was well done. When I first came here, those were much smaller events. The mass participation wasn't as great. But now we've got something, we can really be proud of in both those cities, I think.
So you mentioned mental health and running being good for your head, and I meet people who are starting out, especially see some people walking the park run, some people who are quite overweight but walking the park run, maybe run that show great courage. Why is it good for your head as well as for your heart, as it were, in terms of running? What are the benefits young people, anyone would get from trying to take up running? Not everybody has to be just as fast as you or run as far as you, but what are the mental benefits, do you think?
Well, I mean, I think there's a few. So, I mean, there is a social aspect. So, particularly if you're going along to a park run or a couch to 5K, you're seeing other people, you're getting encouraged, you're having a wee chat, you're getting out beyond yourself. That social interaction is good for your mental health. And then I also think back to, I mean, like, say someone like C.S. Lewis, right? One of our writers here from Belfast. He wasn't a runner, but he did always say when he had a mental block, he would go out for a nice long walk. And when he came back, he could see things differently. And there are so many sort of creative people, I think, that say the same thing. If they can go and get a physical break, some sort of exercise, there's something about it that resets your brain, your mind, your ability to think. And you think much more clearly, you're much more alert. When your body is moving, your brain is working subconsciously on problems or helping you to become more creative. So I think that is a benefit as well.
The other thing about running, of course, is you don't need, it's not like ice hockey, which is the big sport in Maine as well. You don't need a lot of equipment. So I take it that no matter where you go in the world, you take a pair of running shoes with you and gear, and you can participate. So I take it you don't take a lot of days off running even when you're away.
No, no, not at all. I mean, I would take a few days off after a marathon and so
Okay.
forth. And that's important. I take easy days. I don't run hard every day. Some days are hard days should be hard and easy days should be easy. Um,
So would
so,
you regard yourself as driven or disciplined or both?
well, I mean, I suppose there's a certain amount of discipline to it, but a few years ago, I was sort of struck. I do strength and conditioning as well, so I would go to the gym twice a week. And I have a trainer in the gym, and he's a young guy, and he said to me, he's like, "How have you stayed motivated all these years?" And it stopped me because I literally had not thought about motivation for years. It just did not occur to me not to do the thing, whether that was go to the gym twice a week or to run, because it had become such a habit to me that I didn't even think about it anymore. Like motivation, I'm not this, motivation was not a problem. I mean, on further reflection, I thought, well, if I'm going out to do a hard marathon pace session, trying to run 12 miles out of 20 at marathon pace, yeah, I might dread that a little bit. But like motivation didn't really come into it anymore. It had become like a habit and something I just did without even, I suppose, pondering it, which I don't know. It was a weird realization, but the fact that you can actually make a habit and ingrain it so much was also, I think, it was like a revelation to me. Yeah. So I guess it's a sort of discipline, but when it becomes a habit, the discipline is not difficult, if that makes sense. You just sort of automatically do it, and you feel the benefit of it.
So you said you're not competing. I don't know. You're certainly not competing internationally anymore. You're not representing Ireland or
No,
Northern Ireland anymore. No,
no,
you're
too old.
well, but it's still at Masters. Paul Elliott's running like hell, so when he's allowed to. But how do you stop? You're still competitive. I take it. You still find it impossible not to overtake everyone.
Yeah, well, see, like I don't do the Masters internationals
Okay.
per se. Basically, what I have been doing the last few years is running Belfast and Dublin marathons, and I'm still competitive in that at a senior level, not just the Masters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, I don't remember. Was I fourth at Belfast last year? I think so. Fourth overall and first Northern Ireland. And when I ran a time in the 240s, that's competitive. I can live with that. I ran 2:43 in Dublin. I was I don't even, was I fourth or fifth Irish woman? I actually don't remember, but I was competitive enough that I'm still running in the 240s. I'm beating girls that are young enough to be my daughter.
So,
That'll keep
so
me going for a while.
so people don't like to see you turn up. I'm sure they say, "Oh no, she's still running. She's still running. She's so fast." What was your proudest running moment?
Well, I think running in the Commonwealth Games for Northern Ireland, that was really a really special moment, because qualifying for the Commonwealth Games, you sort of get the system behind you, which is nice. So I would have been able to avail of the Sports Institute out in Sinai and Jordanstown at the time. So you get all that support there. You got a lot of support from Athletics Northern Ireland, from my coach and my club and so forth. So you sort of felt the whole community behind you as you were going to represent Northern Ireland. Because it was in Glasgow, like quite a few people were actually there,
Yeah,
watching
of
the
course, yeah,
race
great.
along the course, as close as we get to a home Commonwealth Games,
Yeah, yeah.
So that was really that would be it, I think. I
So,
mean, I had a good race there. I think I was like 12th or something like that, and I beat some of the Scottish ones. You want to beat the home nations, you know what I
of
mean?
course, of course. Well done. So, listen, just to finish off, just the last question about yourself. Where did you get this drive from? Was it your mother or your father, or was it somebody inspired you early on? What gave you this great love of running? Because you wouldn't be doing it if you didn't love it. Is there something or some person that gave you this lifelong love of running?
Well, I mean, I think where I grew up in rural Maine, the culture itself really values hard work at anything. So if there was any lesson that was instilled in me from like the time I was, 5 or 6 years old, is that you work hard, and like it was even your responsibility to work hard, even from a religious perspective, actually, where the church I
Yeah.
went to as a child and so forth. It's like God has given you a gift, and whatever you're good at, you need to work hard at that, because that is that's the thing you are to do in the world, whether it's your job or your sport or whatever. So I think actually the whole kind of culture of the place I grew up contributed to a work ethic. And but of course, it's easier to work hard at something that you do love. So you find something like running that you really enjoy, and it's you can do that in a sense and enjoy the hard work. You've got to enjoy the hard work, actually, I think.
So I very occasionally I go to Fitzroy Church very occasionally, even more occasionally I sit zazen with the Buddhists in the San Francisco Zen Center in San Francisco, of course. And after you sit in the morning, they give everyone a job. So
Yeah.
I got to clean the floor, and they say you don't work, you don't eat. So we get
Hmm.
breakfast after that. So work almost has its own reward. So I agree
Yeah.
with you that, and the great dignity and enjoyment of work. Tell me this last thing, because sometimes I meet people who say, look, I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try running. Don't want to get involved with you guys. You're all crazy. But is there a book or a movie or anything that if someone was a bit of a couch potato and wanted to watch a movie or a book, there's great books about the Kenyan and Ethiopian readers. But there's anything stands out for you?
Well, one book that I have returned to a few times and read several times is Meb Keflezighi's book, 26 Marathons. So Meb would have been well, he still is, he's still alive. He's about my age. We were in high school at the same time, right?
Child,
He was an immigrant from Eritrea who immigrated to California in the United States. And he had a great career. He was Olympic silver medalist in the marathon, won New York, won Boston. And what this book does is it takes you through each of the 26 marathons he ran as a
wow.
professional athlete. And the subtitle is What I Learned About Faith, Identity, Running, and Life from My Marathon Career. So he'd be like, an Orthodox Christian from Eritrea. His faith's really important to him. And he had a lot to overcome. I mean, he was a refugee, right? Who landed in Italy and then came to the United States, and so forth. He's one of like 10 kids. He didn't have an easy life. And his running career wasn't easy either. At one year in the Olympic trials, he like fractured his pelvis, I think, or something like this. And then later went on to have those great victories in Boston and the silver medal and so forth. So I really like that book. It takes you through the ups and downs of his life, and also a wee bit of like marathon strategy, right? So this is one of my favorites. He's like, if you can just like catch the person that's ahead of you, and then they go by them with a little spurt, and then slow down and run the pace they were previously running, they'll never catch you. So that's one of Meb's secrets from that book in terms of strategy, but also just the kind of person he was. He never ran a super fast time, but he always ran well in a championship race. And he would just grind out those really tough races on the championship courses and get the results,
Well, and did you meet him?
Well, you believe it or not, I never did, even though we were in high school. We would have been, I think we were both at the Foot Locker Nationals the same year when we were in high school, but I didn't actually meet him particularly. So no, I've never met Meb.
So George Mitchell, yourself, and that runner, there's something in the water in Maine. So there is. So Gladys, thanks for making your home in Belfast. Thanks for being such a great star of our local running scene. Thanks for encouraging so many other people and inspiring so many other people. And please God, we'll see you on St. Patrick's Day morning. So Gurkhead Moiget, thanks very much. Good luck.
Thank you.